Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 97. What in the name of sweet holy shitballs is Eddie doing dropping DC? You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome once again. Big episode today, lots to discuss. But before any of that, of course, I'm here with Dan. Hi, mate.
Mate, I've been such an arsehole. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say happy birthday for last Friday. I can't believe I forgot to call you. I mean, what a fucking dick thing to do, right?
Exactly.
Oh, hang on. No, hang on. Sorry, it was my birthday last Friday.
Well, mate, I'm pretty sure everyone listening will remember when they listened to our episode on Friday that I said happy birthday to you.
You recorded Thursday and I told you that was not all right. Do you know who else, actually? Do you know who else used to forget birthdays?
Who's that?
Hitler.
You're odd.
No, I'm not saying anything. All I'm saying is I'm starting to see a pattern. I mean, in fairness to you, there's many ways you are not like him. You're not a vile racist or anything like that. But birthday forgetting, that is...
It's up there, is it? It's up there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I apologise. Happy birthday, belated, for what it's worth. Hopefully someone out there will feel sorry for you. We'll feel sorry for you and send you a little birthday message or something. But more importantly than any of that,
yeah,
what the fuck is going on with the squad selection? For those that don't know, and I'm sure you all do because you can't not find it if you type rugby into the internet right now. Danny Cipriani has just been left out of the training camp, and we'll go into the squad a little bit, and we'll talk about what the camp looks like and expectations and everything else. But more than anything is that Eddie Jones has been interviewed about this lack of inclusion and said that the reason that Danny Cipriani has not been included is based on form.
Oh, shut up! No.
So
seriously?
Yeah, that is his reason. It's based on form. Apparently, Danny Cipriani is disappointed as you would expect him to be, but he understands what he needs to work on, and hopefully he'll do that. That's kind of Eddie Jones's reaction. What he's actually said is that there are already two outside halves, fly halves, included in the camp in the form of George Ford and Owen Farrell, and that Cipriani is apparently third or even fourth choice, and therefore he's not included in this camp because Eddie wants his two first choice fly halves to have more time in that position. Talk to me.
It's just wrong. I'm sorry. I know we are, we back England to the end, and we probably can even be accused of being sort of like overly. Should we just say not necessarily looking at everything from every angle?
Rose-tinted glasses.
England. Exactly. But this is just wrong. I'm sorry. George Ford had a great weekend last weekend. He played really well. Danny Cipriani, the last time in an England top, Danny Cipriani played, and he did more than enough to keep that England top. Since then, Danny Cipriani has probably been the player of the Premiership.
Well, I mean, a lot of people are saying that he is certainly the form fly half in the Premiership. This was actually something that someone said in an interview to Eddie Jones. You know, what are you going to say to the fans that would say that Danny Cipriani is the form fly half in the Premiership? And Jones's reaction was, "Well, I've never said that." So I don't know if we want to try and play devil's advocate.
No. One other thing quickly. Is Eddie genuinely considering Owen Farrell as a possible starting 10? Maybe he is with Manu in.
Yeah, maybe. Or is Manu 13 like he plays for Leicester?
Yeah, but then do you still want a... But then that loses players who maybe he wants.
But
I don't know. Sorry.
13 up until now has been a pretty unknown position. You know, he's tried JJ, he's tried... who else is he?
Slade.
Henry Slade, who we both think should be done with England, but he's back in the squad.
Hang on.
I think, but he's back. Yeah. But so we'll come on to that in a minute because there's some questions I want to ask you about that. But if let's try. We could sit here and talk for hours about how wrong Eddie Jones is in his decision. But let's try and get in his head a little bit. A couple of things. Okay. One, and this is something that Andy Good has said, is don't get too carried away. You wouldn't put it past Eddie Jones for this to be some sort of a mind game. And I was thinking about that and thinking it's quite a big call to make if that's what it is. But he's just selected this squad. What always tends to happen is the media immediately goes, oh, well, the 23 has to be these players. Based on who you've selected, this is who he's done something that has basically just flipped like every single media outlet is talking about one thing and one thing only. And that's the lack of inclusion of Danny Cipriani. Is it possible that he is looking at Danny Cipriani at 10 and he's not included him because he's already inked him in? But he's telling us what he's telling us because it gets the media talking about one thing only.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've not even looked at it from that point of view. That had not even occurred to me. Is that possible? Yeah, I believe it is with Eddie.
So I wonder, he strikes me as the sort of person that would sit there and basically just lie to the media saying it's form-based and all this sort of stuff. And in the back of his mind, he's thinking, yeah, he's absolutely proved himself. I don't need to see him, at this particular training camp the same way that I need to see if George Ford, is still the man to be number 2, perhaps. I think the Owen Farrell thing just helps back that argument up if he's trying to suggest he's already got 2, even though he's looking at Farrell as a 12. So that's one possibility. That's
the only problem with that is that's an incredibly arrogant approach. Because, firstly,
have you heard Eddie Jones speak before?
Yeah, well, so here's the thing. Firstly, it's incredibly arrogant because it means that time where Danny Cipriani doesn't get to train with the squad, which is vital time. But also, if that is an incredibly arrogant approach, the amount of backlash that is going to come, that could also change, if that's his mindset now, could also change the level of arrogance. So do you all? I'm in charge. He's not coming in. Which may also have been a factor in this decision anyway.
Does it necessarily come out that this is what he's doing? I mean, I'm not suggesting that he said to Danny Cipriani, I'm selecting you, but I'm just not bringing you to this camp, but don't tell anybody. I'm wondering if he has genuinely said to Cipriani, you need to go and work on X, Y, and Z, but it's because, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's very glass half full, wishful thinking. It does seem a little bit far-fetched for him to be doing something like that.
It seems a bit pathetic if that is the case, I must admit.
I mean, okay, so to look at things from a slightly different angle, then.
Yeah.
Manu is selected. I would assume at 13. I don't know why you would suddenly think he's going to be a 12 when he plays 13 for Leicester.
He's 6, but he's season to 12, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, but on what basis? Like, again, is that just an arrogant thing? Like, he's playing out of position. I'm going to play him in a different position, even though he hasn't really had much game time for the last 2 years. I don't know, it seems strange to me. I mean, possibly he is thinking that Manu is a 12, but I think that would be a mistake. Tio's back in; he hasn't had much game time. It's an interesting one. I mean, the good news: Danny Care is back. We had a long chat last week about him and his inclusion and what was going on there. But he's back in, and he was looking pretty sharp at the weekend. Made some lovely little breaks. One in particular for that juggling try, where I thought it was a bit harsh of the pundits to describe him as a clown.
Who did that?
I'm not sure which one it was, but so after he did that little juggling thing where he managed to touch the ball down, they said something like, "And that's how the clown scores a try," or something pretty harsh.
I'm sure they didn't mean it as bad as that can sound. But I mean, he fumbled, he dealt with it, he scored, and made it into a spectacle.
Yeah, it was nice.
But he did look good. He looked sharp, didn't he?
Yeah, so just back on the Cipriani thing briefly. So another question a lot of people are asking is, is this related to off-the-field antics? Which Eddie has said it isn't. He said that that's been put to bed. But in the same breath, he's also said, of course, someone's personality and all the rest of it, that plays a big part in selection. But I don't see that he can justify, and maybe this is the reason why he's saying this has nothing to do with it. He can't justify dropping him based on, that sort of thing. When you've got Chris Ashton sitting on an 8-week ban, or whatever it is. And I know that's different because that was an on the field incident, but nevertheless, it was an incident. I don't know. It feels a bit strange. Ashton will have had.
He's had some off the field. I mean, fair enough, not for years, but
Ashton will have had one game by the time England next play, but he's in there. And Cipriani, who is playing like an animal, is not included because he's not in form. I mean, someone actually commented again. Someone said about specifically about that pass, the first time he did it, and they said afterwards, passing like that, and apparently Eddie was very quick to say it's one pass. There were lots of good passes this weekend. Just because
that is a fair point.
Just because you do one, and it is a fair point, but just because you do one good pass, it doesn't mean you had a great game. So maybe he's seeing things that we're not. Maybe there's something specific he's looking for from his fly half that he's not seeing from Cipriani, in the same way that Don Armand, we all think is amazing, but Eddie's not seeing something in him that he wants to see. It's frustrating, I think, as a fan to not know. People say, well, what is it you've talked to Cipriani about? That's between me and him, he says. So it's frustrating to not know what it is that he thinks Danny Cipriani isn't delivering.
Well, so here's the issue with that. So, yes, it is frustrating as a fan. I mean, fair enough, to a point, that is between him and Eddie. But as a fan, you do want more information. But if there is something that Eddie's not seen in Danny Cipriani that he wants to see, why was he on the South Africa tour? And why was he select to play?
Yeah.
Because since then, Danny Cipriani has just become a better player.
Yeah. I doubt there'll be many people who agree with the decision to drop him. And I think he's definitely created a bit of a rod for his own back, old Eddie. So it'll be very interesting to see how this one kind of transpires, because he's going to have to create some sort of magic without Cipriani that's awesome enough to kind of justify it to the fans. Who, let's be honest, there's a reason why the RFU is so wealthy, and it's because of the fans. So there is a certain expectation, an obligation to kind of not do what the fans are telling you, because obviously it's your job to make the decisions, and he was pretty clear about that. But there's still an obligation to not kind of leave the fans going, well, hang on a second, this is arguing black is white. So
I think there's an obligation to keep fans informed, maybe of fractionally more than is happening.
Yeah.
You say, there's 100% not an obligation.
When things are going well, though, is that what we like about Eddie Jones? Probably.
Well, that's the thing. They're not going well.
No, they're not right now. But it's a new kind of season, and the autumn internationals are going to determine exactly where things stand. And the danger is if he doesn't select Cipriani and we have a bad autumn international and series, particularly if George Ford isn't firing, it's going to make life very difficult for him. So yeah,
but even if we do play well and we have a great series, that does not justify leaving Cipriani out.
Well, except that if we play really well and George Ford looks amazing again,
if George Ford is selected ahead of Cipriani based on form, I don't think that's the end of the world. I think George Ford was absolutely brilliant for Leicester last weekend.
Yeah.
And I think George Ford's a brilliant player. But Cipriani needs to be in that squad. If you're the attack coach, I always forget the guy's name. What Wisemantel is it?
Yeah.
When you're, fair enough, Eddie gets to say, when you're talking about selection, you're not saying, look, mate, come on, let's have a look at Cipriani, what he offers in attack. You even saw last weekend, with Charlie Sharple's try, the second one. Danny Cipriani is opening up gaps for players in the same way George Ford does, in fairness, as well. But the reason that try was made possible, not because it was an amazing pass or anything like that, and it was a predefined move, is because Danny Cipriani is a danger man, so the attack are going for him, committing to him, which makes that gap.
Yeah.
Danny, you risk so much not having him in the squad. Now, the only thing I could say is when you're saying off the field antics, I don't think it would be regarding the incident in Jersey. It may be that within camp, Eddie isn't happy about how Danny Cipriani portrays himself within camp. That may be something. Yeah. And if that is the case, we just don't know about that.
So what you think? Maybe he's told him what he needs to work on, but it's not about working on something specifically on the field. It's about working on things off the field. But he doesn't want to go into it.
I don't think that, but I'm just saying it could be a possibility.
Maybe, but I think that's the sort of thing that we should know about, and I think that's a strong stance for a reasonable one, as frustrating as it would be, But for Eddie to come out and say, I've spoken to him. I'm not happy about how he behaved, and he needs to work. There's a few things that I want to see him work on to assure me that he's someone that I want to have in a squad for 9 weeks. And right now, I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
If he was to come out and say that, you kind of say, "Look, I may not agree, but I respect that kind of decision." To come out though and say that it's based on form, when the rest of us can clearly see that he's in great form, it's kind of Eddie. And then Eddie saying, "Well, I'm the coach, and that's not how I see it." That's sort of saying that all the fans who watch the game don't know what they're watching. Do you know what I mean? It kind of makes me think, well, hang on, I'm watching and I'm thinking he's looking great in the moment, and you're telling me that he's not looking great in the moment. Are we watching different games, or are you just saying that I don't know what it is I'm seeing?
Yeah, that's it. It's not just the fans, because it's all the pundits as well. And actually, I think I know what's happened here. I think what might have happened is Danny Cipriani might have forgot Eddie Jones' birthday.
It's possible. Maybe Eddie Jones tried it on with him.
In which case, he does deserve to be dropped, and he deserves, quite frankly, never to play rugby again if that's the case, because that is about as harsh a thing as you could do.
Fair enough. Alternatively, it's like the Jersey incident, and Eddie Jones tried it on with Danny. He said no. Eddie's not happy.
You think Jesus, that one never occurred to me either. You never know.
You never know. There's a lot of possible reasons for this, and we will, of course, keep you informed, but we cannot talk about this decision for the entire episode because it will get boring. So there will be more on this, no doubt, in our next episode. But for now, we're going to say it's disappointing, and we await kind of more justification for it.
Well, just before we finish this,
we're not going to say that just yet. We've got one more thing to say. Go on.
I was going to say, did you mention there was an email about this?
I did not. We've had someone email just to say what are our thoughts, and okay.
There
they are. It was Tom Fossell, who is a name that I recognise. We've obviously
we've had an email from Tom before. Yeah.
So Tom, great to have you getting in touch with us 5 minutes after the announcement. That is proper dedication. And
good man.
There you are. It was always going to be a key part of today's episode, but so we need to move on. So let's look at the squad and forget about that for a minute. I mentioned already, great to see Danny Care back involved. I think that's the right call. I still see him as offering just something more exciting at 9 than we get from Ben Youngs. And you have two very different players. Dan Robson is in there.
Yep.
So that's obviously an interesting one.
Well, again, this goes against our... And this is where it gets frustrating as a fan, because, fair enough, we've had that theory with Eddie. Maybe Dan Robson wasn't training well in camp. Maybe he wasn't a great part of the camp, which is why he wasn't played. But clearly that's not the case.
And Dan Robson is the third choice out of three. Well, we don't know the order, but assuming that it's the original duo, he is the third choice out of three. So it's bizarre. It is weird that he's the one that has been kept in. I mean, I'm glad to see it with everything we were saying. I just hope he gets... Well, it's not game time, is it? Because it's a training camp, but... So
what happened to... why am I forgetting names? Is it Spencer for Sammy?
He's just not selected.
Yeah, he was selected ahead of Dan Robson.
Has Dan
Robson been that much better for Wasps?
He's been pretty useful, but I don't think he's been that much better.
I'm getting a headache thinking about this.
Yeah, I don't think he's been that much more useful than he's been in previous seasons, but he's been pretty bloody useful in previous seasons. So, I think he's just doing what he does, and he's back in again. I just hope it's not Eddie wasting his time again. But at the same time, I want to see Danny Care involved. So I don't know if Danny Care is a starter for England, and I think Dan Robson and Danny Care are quite similar players in the way that they approach the game. So it kind of feels like Ben Youngs is the starter, and then one of those two is covering him. And I think in that case, I'm probably still going Danny Care because I think the experience probably trumps slightly. But we'll see what goes. We'll see how he we'll see what comes out of the training camp. We're not going to know a huge amount from the training camp anyway. It's not like he comes away and goes, right, the squad that I'm selecting from this group is. So we might be reading an awful lot into things, but that's what we're here to do.
Yes, it is what we're here to do. But this training camp is so vital because it sort of this training camp is what basically you'd imagine. Because what we've got to bear in mind as well, now John Mitchell has been confirmed as our defence coach.
He has. And finally, we have one. And not only we have one, but he was there when England won the World Cup in 2003 under Clive Woodward, and he then went on to be the head coach of the All Blacks. So he's got a fair bit of experience. He does.
And is it, like we say, Wisemantle confirmed? Am I saying it right? Is it Wisemantle?
Wisemantle, yeah, that's how I'd say it.
Yeah, I always said confirmed as the attack coach. So if we just quickly pop back to the Cipriani thing, then I promise I'll leave it. If, like we're saying, this was, like as Andy Goode says, which I think is a good point, you wouldn't put it past Eddie to do mind games. That's a hell of a, that's a hell of a decision to make. Bearing in mind, John Mitchell now is going to have a slightly different strategy to what Custard had.
Yeah.
So realistically, the people you're bringing to this camp, you have to be looking at as your autumn international squad. You're not really thinking about bringing other people in.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly looks that way, but it's Eddie Jones. You just don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You want to know. I want to know what's happening, but we don't. So we're going to have to leave it there, Dan. Okay. Because we're not going to get anywhere else with it, but we're going to come back to it, I suspect. Look how much we came back to Don Armand. This is not going away.
I'm not sure I ever mentioned that a second time, but whatever.
You're right. You've never even mentioned Don Armand.
Anyway, I know.
Ashton, as I mentioned, he's obviously involved in the training camp. He's not going to get to play any rugby again until a week before the autumn internationals start. So that's an interesting one. Jack Knowles back from injury.
Good.
Obviously, Manu's back. He's involved again.
Good.
Ben Teo, another one who's back but hasn't had a lot of game time. He's been injured. So there's quite a lot of guys who are kind of coming back in because they're, almost old guard. So it's very, it'll be very interesting to see if there's any signs of which way he's kind of leaning following this camp, particularly with the back.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Anything. Sorry, mate.
What I was just going to say, we know what Jack Knoll can do. We know what Elliot Daly can do and has been doing in the Premiership this season. We know how good Johnny May is. Chris Ashton's obviously now in there too. Someone, Ashton, Knoll, Daly, Johnny May, someone, Cokanasiga is also involved. He's been looking really sharp for Bath.
He looked good at the weekend, didn't he?
So that already we've got 5 guys vying for 3 positions. Mike Brown's in there too, obviously, as presumably being looked at fullback. I can't imagine with all the other talent there that he's looking at him on the wing.
Well, he might be looking at him as third or fourth 10 ahead of Cipriani.
Probably.
He probably didn't forget his birthday, so he's coming as the 10. Yeah,
maybe. But yeah, so Manu. I mean, if he's looking at Manu at 12 and Farrell potentially at 10, which we're saying is possibly one way he's going.
I mean that was a massive speculation for me.
Does that mean he's looking at Slade at 13? Which I don't know. It doesn't for me. Looking at that lineup. Farrell, Tuolangi, Slade, it just feels wrong. It doesn't feel connected. I feel like if you're going to have if you're going to have the outside playmakers, then when you want the playmakers at 10-12, not at 10-13 with a crash ball man in the middle.
So I think that's a fair point. When I said that, I don't think I'd thought that through. When you just said it out loud to me like that, doesn't make sense. What he's possibly looking at, if you're saying Farrell is an option at 10, which he is 100% saying, is possibly a Farrell at 10, a Lazowski or Lazowski. Why do I always forget which way around it is? but Farrell at 10, Lozowski at 12, and Manu at 13. That might be a possibility. Or even a Slade at 12.
I hope not.
Or even a Tio at 12.
Do you want a Tuilagi centre partnership?
Yeah, you're just going for raw size. You're going Tio, Tuilagi,
that's sounding on one wing. A little bit Warren Ball.
That's sounding, too much. I don't think you are looking at that.
I don't think so.
Tio, I think it's...
You're looking at fly half Farrell, as in a fly half, then Farrell, then Manu, but possibly coming off, Manu and Tio covering each other, interchangeable. Yeah. And then three strong, a strong back three made up from the guys we've mentioned. Daly was interviewed after the Wasps game, and they said, you want to play 13, don't you? And he said the right thing. He said, I just want to wear an England shirt and play. I'll play anywhere. But clearly there have been conversations, and 13 is what he's looking at. So it feels a bit.
Could it be a Farrell to a Laggy Daly?
Maybe, but it all just feels a bit unsure. But then I think, what's Ford even doing there if that's what he's thinking? Because if you're going to have an impact player to bring off the bench, potentially at 10, I just don't think it's Ford. I think Ford's someone who needs to get into the game. I don't think he comes on and changes the game. Cipriani, if you're bringing someone on for 20 minutes at 10, you need a 10 that has the potential to change a game.
Yeah. Ford, like Cipriani's the impact 10.
Yeah. Ford is a great 10, but he's a 10 that wants to lead the game from the beginning and control it and kind of build into it. If you're looking at Ford / Cipriani as your replacement to come on and make an impact, it's Cipriani every time, without question. So anyway, you've got me doing it now. We've moved on from Cipriani. We're coming back to him next week.
Yeah. We're coming on. But could Tuilagi be the impact player on the bench?
What, at 10?
Could you be going Ford? Yeah, could you be going... Who knows? It could be. Could just crash ball 10 every time. Could it be like a Ford Farrell Daly?
Maybe.
And then once the defence gets tired, bring on the big lad.
Maybe. So a lot of options. Probably not really clarifying anything. But I don't know. Maybe is it a good thing that we're talking? I don't know if it's a good thing that there seem to be so many possible options.
So this is what
in some ways it's like strength in depth, but it's like, do I want strength in depth just before the World Cup? Yes, for injuries, but
how are we not just a bit further along in knowing what our team is with the World Cup this rugby calendar year?
I don't know.
Not calendar years. But this is rugby calendar year, I guess, makes sense because it's basically the end of this rugby season. It's not quite the start of the World Cup. World Cup is the start of next season, but it effectively is. It does concern me that that's the case a bit, but they are also positive to take out of it. Like you're saying, it seems like a bit of the old guards coming back. In fairness, the old guard who are coming back have all proven themselves massively, and have proven themselves in recent times.
Yeah.
It's not as if you're bringing back.
I think the main thing is that Cipriani aside, there is a very strong backs squad to choose your whatever it's going to be 10 players for the squad.
Is there any positions we're short on? Is there anywhere where we?
No, I don't think
where you look and you think,
3 strong scrum halves, the whole fly half debate, numerous centre options, and multiples of the back three. So
how about fullback?
Well, you got Brown or Daly. Noel can play fullback.
Yeah.
Chris Ashton can potentially play fullback. I'm not sure you would put him there, but he's done it. Well, he did it for the Barbars, didn't he? I think he's covered. I mean, I think he's thinking Daly is the fullback, and Daly's playing fullback he was playing fullback for Wasps at the weekend. I think temporarily, but nevertheless, it's clearly a position that he's getting more and more practice in, which is interesting. So yeah, I'm not too worried about the backs. I just want clarification on the Cipriani situation. Looking at the forwards, obviously, captain. I'm assuming he'll be the captain. Is back in Dylan. I can't see bringing Dylan Hartley back in and not as captain.
all of this is such an important part of it. That hadn't even occurred to me because of what else has happened. But that's an important part. Like, who is the captain? I think you're right. I can't see it not being Dylan Hartley.
No, I mean, he doesn't need to select a captain for the training squad, but he's kind of alluded to the fact that Dylan Hartley is his man in the past to take him to the World Cup, and we've all kind of seen from the tour, that leadership was massively missed. He's back in the squad. He's playing brilliantly for Northampton. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the captain. But we will obviously wait to see that. There's no mention at this stage. Jamie George is obviously there. Is it just the two of them? It can't be, can it?
Is Cowan Dickey not in the squad? I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I'm just looking now, and no, he is not. So he's only taking the two of them. Nick Schonert of Worcester. He's a back row, is he?
I
think he is.
So, do you know what? I'm not sure. Is he?
I think so, yeah.
We've got too many back rows.
I'm going to look it up while we're talking.
Michael Rhodes is in there again for Saracens. He's not going to play. I don't know why he's part of the squad. He's just not going to play.
And maybe he just needs some people to be opposition in the training squad.
Cannon fodder.
Exactly. He's expecting injuries, and he's banking on the fact that the ones he doesn't really want are going to be the ones that get injured.
Well, yeah, could well be. Are you looking up there?
Yeah, I'm looking. So, it's not giving me much information right now. He's here, though. Prop. Not back row, he's a prop.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, the forwards, and that's fine. And Cowan Dickey not there. I'm a little surprised. Where I'm surprised is because Dylan Hartley's fairly fresh back from a concussion. I'm surprised there's not a third option at hooker just in case.
Yeah, well, I think we haven't really made enough of this actually. While we're talking about it, the fact there's only two is a pretty good sign that Dylan Hartley is going to be part of his 23. Because you're going to take two hookers, and it's pretty safe to say he's not going to be the replacement. He's going to be the starter, and therefore it's also fairly likely that he's going to be the captain. Because I don't think you, at this stage, I don't think you bring your captain and say, I'm going to keep playing you, but you're not good enough to be captain anymore. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that. What message does that send? Yeah. It was never his captaincy that we thought was a problem, and he was the captain when England equalled the world record for longest win streak. So, as a captain, he's done everything right. It was potentially as a player that he was, falling short of the mark, and he seems to have turned things around since the injury. So, we shall see. I guess the only thing is that because he's been coming on as a replacement for Northampton and doing well.
Yeah, so I was going to say, has he turned things around as a player, or have the others just not grabbed their opportunities?
Well, I mean, Dylan Hartley is playing better for Northampton than he was towards the end of last season.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean.
Last season, yeah.
But yeah, so other things in there. Well, we've got Courtney Laws is obviously back. Zach Mercer, he's been looking pretty good for Bath. He's back.
He was amazing at the weekend.
Looking really aggressive. But again, he's a number 8. And we've got our number 8. He's never getting injured again. Touch wood.
Oh, God, yeah, I hope so.
So otherwise, a lot of the same. I'm looking now. I'm not seeing any major changes or surprises. There's clearly some people missing, but I don't know who. James Haskell's not obviously in there, although he was in the last training camp, wasn't he? And we were debating whether or not there was something in that.
I think he was. I don't think James Haskell's played well enough or even enough to justify selecting this time round.
No, I mean he's definitely coming to the end of his career. I think this will be his last season, and he's only probably really doing this to keep the dream alive of being part of that World Cup squad. But it's definitely last chance saloon, and I agree. I'm not sure that right now he's stand out enough to be in there, but that'll be an interesting one to watch because there aren't many guys like him who will do absolutely everything it takes to be included.
Or
in a way that he will. So he will undoubtedly put the hard graft in, and you never know if he can come back and do in Japan what he did in Australia a few years ago. Please have him there.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's the squad. One big surprise, a few not surprises but welcome returns. I hope they get something decent out of the camp, and I hope that it's not set in stone yet. There's still a lot of season to play before the autumn internationals, and Cipriani's been doing what he does. He's been doing so well this season. Gloucester unbeaten. I just really don't want it to be ignored. So I hope Cipriani just gets better as a result of
I'm actually going to watch Saracens Gloucester this weekend. So I'm going to be interested to see how Cipriani, how he plays, how he reacts.
Make a point of kind of noting how he's playing when he's not showboating, and I mean that in a good way, because clearly Eddie's looking at things that we're not seeing. So you will be in prime position to report back on whether there's something there that maybe gives you the impression that you can work out what's going on in Eddie's head.
Yeah, it was actually I will keep a close eye. It was another birthday mug off. Actually, it's from Coops. Coops was like, "Yeah, birthday will take you to the Sarries versus Gloucester game." I'm like, "Oh mate, thanks for that." He's like, "Yeah, that's £50 for the ticket."
Yeah,
that's not a present.
What are you talking about? That's from me as well, mate.
Is it? You're letting me pay for my own ticket?
Yeah.
In fairness to Coops, at least he remembered my actual birthday and got in touch.
Oh, I remembered it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that makes it even better. Awesome.
I remembered it. I made a conscious decision not to get in touch.
Well, that I'm not going to lie, that's not.
Moving on. There's obviously something else that we have to talk about. Bit of an elephant in the room. New Zealand.
Oh, I thought you were on about my date. New Zealand. South Africa, great to see that. South Africa beat them in New Zealand.
Yeah, they are human, which I think is massive. It's massive for the rest of the world. It's massive for England. It's a psychological. We've talked about it. You put them under enough pressure, and it is possible. They're not going to lose a lot of games between now and the World Cup. Hopefully, just the one in the autumn. Hopefully they lose more, but certainly we hope that just the one in the autumn. I
don't mind if they lose to Ireland as well.
True. We don't want anyone else to have that confidence going into the World Cup, just us.
Actually, we don't want Ireland to have that. Yeah, fair point, yeah.
But they're beatable by a team that admittedly dicked us twice before we beat them. But it'll be interesting because we've got them both obviously in the autumn. And we've also got Australia, of course, just got beaten by Argentina in Australia for the first time in 35 years.
Seriously, that long?
Yeah. So they are, in the first time in 35 years. So I don't know if Australia have lost to Argentina in Argentina more recently.
Yeah, they have. I know that, but I didn't realise it was that long in Australia. Like you say, the key to this is for the rest of the world. It is good to just show that. But the fact it was in New Zealand as well is huge.
Do we want Australia to beat New Zealand now?
Don't care.
Really?
So because there's plus and positives and minuses. Australia have a really good team, but just don't seem to be coming together. Do we want Australia to suddenly gain that confidence and momentum?
No.
So that's why I'm thinking maybe
equally,
not.
Is it a massive blow to New Zealand if they lose 2 on the bounce?
Exactly. That's why I'm thinking. I'm going to stay agnostic on this one.
Fair enough. Well, anyway, you look at it. It's awesome for the rest of the world. It's awesome for World Rugby. It's awesome for the World Cup next year. And it's gonna just made things that little bit more interesting. Players are going to have a level of confidence that they didn't have before that happened. Obviously, the South Africans take the most from it, and by all accounts, old Faf de Klerk was a key part of that. But yeah, it's good news it's good news for us for sure.
I think so.
As long as we can take advantage of it. You know, what we don't want is New Zealand to kind of feel like they've been backed into a corner and now to come out just better than ever. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that when Ireland beat them. So
I think the difference when Ireland beat them, New Zealand were missing a lot of players. I mean, this was the New Zealand top team.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, and it showed that that fair enough, South Africa had a great game, but that's what it takes to beat New Zealand. But
yeah, well, it's what it takes to win a World Cup. You can't really win a World Cup by having an off day. So it's about having to string them all together, and I guess the fact that we're I can't remember if it's been worked out yet or not, but I have a feeling that our best chance, we're only going to meet New Zealand in the final, because I think when the draw was done, we were second in the world.
We're not only going to meet them, assuming things go to form.
Oh, of course, yeah. We need to win our group.
Yeah,
that is a good point, Daniel. Yes, well, which of course they will, because we're going to be unbeaten, and therefore,
of course.
It's only if they lose a game that it's all going to change. I can't see them.
Well, exactly. That's how I meant. That's the way I meant it.
Of course. So I mean, they're the big talking points, I think, for this episode. Is there anything else that you think we need to discuss? I feel like it's all so fresh that I still have a lot to digest.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Not from this episode. There are a few other bits. There was actually a Facebook message from a guy, Linus Hector. Mate, thanks very much. I have seen your message. It was actually a while ago, but I've just seen it. I will actually bring that up in the next episode because it does pose an interesting question. But I think with what's gone on today, we've had the focus on that. We need to digest that and probably...
we need to simmer and just take it in.
See how calmer heads prevail.
And come up with a plausible reason, like the trying it on with him and rejection and,
forgetting his birthday, that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
I don't think anyone would ever do anything that bad, so I can't imagine that's it, but,
Probably not. So let's leave it then on that note, people. Hopefully this has satisfied your curiosity as to what our thoughts are on this decision. Obviously, as we always say, but in particular because of what's happened this week, do get in touch. Let us know what you think. If particular, actually, I really want to know if there's anyone out there that thinks it's the right call to have left Danny Cipriani out. I'd be very interested to hear from you as to your reasons why. And
they will get an email from Eddie at England Rugby. Yeah,
we'll definitely discuss that in the next episode. I'll be very interested. But yeah, any thoughts that you've got, any questions and comments, get in touch at England Rugby Pod on social media or englandrugbypod@gmail.com to email us, which is usually the best bet. Get over to iTunes, rate us, review us, let us know what you think. Hopefully, only positive stuff. And we'll be back next week with probably a little bit more of the same, and hopefully some news as to what else is going on inside the camp. I'm sure there's going to be an awful lot of media fallout from this Cipriani stuff, so there'll be loads to talk about then. We will catch you again then, guys. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys, and happy birthday to anyone who has a birthday today, tomorrow, and the next few days.
Oh dear.